Handicap placards. Yeah, we love them, we hate them. It's part of today's world. It's something that we all have to deal with. Why? Somebody who's handicapped, they park in a spot that's privileged, right? I don't think so. As a person who has problems with knees, I have a handicap placard. And I've had a lot of discrimination based on my handicap placard. So let me tell you real quickly about why this is an issue. Here's a handicap placard. You guys have probably seen things like this. This is mine, and of course I've knocked out my actual number on here. But mine's is from the state of Illinois. Let me tell you a little bit about these placards. You have a couple different type of placards available. There are permanent placards. In the state of Illinois, that would be a blue placard here. And then there's these red ones that you'll see that are temporary placards. Why do people get temporaries? Well, sometimes they don't have a permanent problem, but they do need some help in mobility for the short-term time period that they actually have an issue. Maybe you have some knee surgery. Maybe you had a foot surgery. Maybe something that prevents you from moving around very easily. So you can't walk very well, and you can't park too far away, otherwise you're going to have to walk. So you're issued a temporary placard. It could be about 6 months in time period. But the permanent placards actually last a little bit longer. I think mine's is like 4 years at a time. I think this is my second permanent one, and I think I had maybe 2 temporary ones prior to getting these permanents. But there's some discrimination that happens because of these things. I have had people stop me and ask me, what my handicap is. Well, really, do I need to tell you that? I've had people look at me when I get out of my car because I don't actually walk poorly when I get out of the car. I walk poorly when I get back to the car. Let me tell you about that. If I've been sitting in the car for a half hour going someplace, let's say I'm going shopping or maybe to some location, my knees have not had a problem for a half hour. I've been sitting and driving. So when I get out of the car, I don't seem to actually have a problem. But when I've been walking around for a while and I need to get back to my car, you'll see me hobbling. Yeah, I have a problem at that point. So I really don't need the handicap parking when I get there. I need the handicap parking when I get back to my car. But people don't see this. So when you get out of your car, they look at you and say, well, there's nothing wrong with this guy. Why does he have a handicap placard? He must be borrowing somebody's placard and just using it so he can get a better parking space. Well, that's not always the case. Don't be so quick to judge. Let me tell you another story. I was once at one of the local grocery stores. Actually had the guy who was pushing carts say to me, my wife was with me at the time, which one of you guys are handicapped? And I said, well, I am. You don't look handicapped. Oh, really? How does a handicapped person look like? Oh, maybe I should be hobbling. So here's what I basically learned over the years. When I get out of that car, even though I don't hurt, I hobble. Why? Just so that other people don't look at me and say, this guy doesn't have a problem. Yeah, it's gotten to that point. And I've talked to a number of other handicapped people, and they've said the same thing. They do the same exact thing. They don't really need it. Well, some do, but you don't really need it sometimes when you get out of the car, but you do need it by the time you get back to the car because you've been walking around the mall for a while. So by the time you get there, you don't want to walk those few extra steps because you're hurting already. So don't be so quick to judge. Let me tell you another story. Let me show you a photo right here, okay? Take a look at this photo. Now, this car is actually right in front of what my business is located at, and you see he's actually parked in a handicapped spot, but he's not handicapped. I've noticed this car several times in front of our building. The gentleman just parks there because it's faster to get into the building, pick up whatever he's planning to pick up, and get back into his car and leave. But sometimes it does take him a while. It could take him 10 minutes. Maybe it takes him 5 minutes. I don't know. But somebody could be pulling up needing that handicapped spot. And if you're parked in the spot, especially the way he's parked on an angle like that, you're taking up spaces. And that's not good. So people have asked me too, why do they have such a wide and large spot? The cars aren't that big. Well, some of the vehicles, especially some of the handicapped vehicles with like vans, for instance, have a ramp. And if you don't have a large enough spot where that ramp could open up and allow the person in the wheelchair to wheel out or wheel in, they can't get in and out of the spot. So if you park in a normal spot that happens to be next to a handicap spot, and you park on an angle or anything closer to that extra space for the ramp, they can't get in and out. So you need to be a little more conscious about how you park your vehicle, and be a little bit more aware that sometimes people have issues that you can't see immediately. All right. I've had people say to me this, you're not old enough to have a handicap. Really? How old do you need to be? People look at me and they say, well, you don't even look your age. I mean, I'm actually, as of this video, I'm 60 years old. How old do you need to be handicapped? I've had the handicap problems a lot longer than that, actually. I've had it for, I don't know, 10 plus years, maybe longer than that, actually. But I only had the handicap placards maybe for the last 10 years, maybe the last 9 years, something like that. So you don't need to have a certain age to have a handicap, believe me. And we don't particularly like having it either. But it is a fact of life, something we have to deal with. Now, there are some benefits being handicapped. Let me tell you this. I have a mobility scooter. I'll show you a photo here of what a typical mobility scooter looks like. Now, I take this scooter everywhere I go if I'm walking a long distance. I can't walk long distances. I can walk short distances, but not long distances. So I take the scooter when I need to go someplace. And the scooter moves at about 4.5 miles per hour. At least mine does. Some are slower, some are faster. I know some scooters go as far as 15 miles per hour. So yeah, they can move. But mine does 4.5 miles an hour, which is considered a fast walking pace. Now, this is faster than most people typically walk. And quite frankly, I can keep going for miles like this, whereas a person can't usually walk that fast, that long. So I actually go quicker than you do, and I cover a lot more ground than you do. I have a photography school, and I teach photography, and I do photography field trips. And when we're on the field trips, my students are walking while I'm scooting around. By the time 3 hours have gone by on a field trip, they're kind of tired. I'm still scooting. So there is a benefit for that, okay? When I go to the airport, I take the scooter. Now, the airports are required to take my scooter onto the airplane without any additional charge to me. Why? Because that's kind of like my wheelchair. I can't walk O'Hare Airport from the car all the way to wherever the terminal happens to be. There's no way I could do that. So I take the scooter. And when I get to my location, I have to take the scooter and get back out of the other airport. So I take the scooter everywhere I go. But every time I go, I do talk to the airlines in advance, and I tell them I'm taking my scooter. Now, their concern really is how heavy is that scooter? And what kind of battery does it have? Because as you well know today, you can't take certain types of batteries. Lithium-ion batteries have issues sometimes in airplanes. So I tell them it is a sealed lead-acid battery, and that's not a problem. That's kind of like a car battery. I can do about 12 miles with that battery. And I also have an extended battery as well. Let me tell you this story, okay? Last year, my wife and I went to Washington, D.C. because I felt, well, I want to see the nation's capital. I have never seen it fully, and I want to see the museum. So my wife walked, I scootered around. Quite frankly, if she had a scooter, she probably would have been able to do it longer than we did. But by the end of that time period, obviously, over several days, she was really hurting quite a bit from the walking. Anyways, I put a secondary battery on the floorboard of the scooter. Now, I did this because I didn't know how long we were going to be going, and maybe I might need to swap out to a different battery so that I can continue to keep going for the rest of the day. Well, I never had to switch that out. It actually handled the entire day on a single charged battery. But here's the real story I really want to tell you. If you put that battery on that floorboard, it kind of looks like a bomb. I mean, it really does. It's a big unit sitting on the floorboard. And I thought, we're going to all these, Smithsonian museums. And I said, they're bound to stop me. Nobody stopped me. Now, I was a little disappointed by that. And you may think, why? Why would you want to be stopped? Because I wanted to make sure that our nation's capital was actually secure. And if none of the security guards are stopping me, they're not checking well enough. Only one security guard actually stopped me and checked it. She says, well, you're going to have to put that through X-ray. I said, no problem. I was actually happy about that. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting that I didn't get stopped. On a side note, I did get stopped by the Secret Service. This is another story. All right, so anyways, I'm scooting along, and we're trying to find a White House. And, we all know that's on Pennsylvania Avenue, but if you're not from Washington, D.C., you don't know where Pennsylvania Avenue is. So we're walking around, and we can't find it. So I see some security guards. Actually, they're they're Secret Service. And quite frankly, they're not that secret because there's a large sign that says Secret Service on the back of their coats. But anyways, so I scoot up to their gate, and I asked the gentleman there, I says, hey, can you please tell me the direction to get to the White House? So the man starts telling me, but another Secret Service agent runs out and says, sir, do you know where you are? Of course, now I'm thinking if I knew where I was, I wouldn't be asking you, but you can get in trouble if you say that. So anyways, I says, no, I'm trying to find a White House. He goes, you are on secured property. Did you know you're on secured property? No. I kind of figured there's a gate, maybe past the gate, that's secured property. But literally, you can't even take a step onto their little driveway if there's a secured area. So anyways, I says, oh, I'm so sorry, let me get off. He goes, well, don't worry about it now, but next time, wave us over. Well, I did, but they weren't looking, okay? You don't want to say that either, because if you say that, yeah, you can get in trouble. So anyways, the other guy, of course, good cop, bad cop, continued on and told me where to get to the White House. So anyways, had I walked up there, what would have happened? Maybe he felt sorry I was in a mobility scooter. I don't know. But really, I think he was just pushing his power. So watch out for Secret Service, okay? Back to the question at hand that we're talking about here, mobility issues and placards, okay? In San Francisco, if you have a placard, you could park anywhere you want and not pay. Hey, that's a perk. Because they kind of take handicap issues seriously. Okay, now here in the Chicago area, even with one of these, I do have to pay for my parking, but I do get preferential treatment as far as getting a closer parking spot. And that's kind of needed. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Be aware that there are people who do need those spots. Don't park in their spots. All right, it's about a $250 fine here in the Chicago area at least. Don't park in the spots, even for a short time, because the time that you're doing something, somebody could be pulling up and needing that spot. And be aware, don't park onto the extra space that's really, next to the handicap spot. They use those spots for the ramps for those people who actually have ramps that require it for their wheelchairs or mobility scooters. So give them that space. And here's another pet peeve that really bothers me, okay? I go to places like Costco all the time, and guess what they use that extra space for? Yeah, shopping carts. Don't put your shopping cart there, okay? Move your cart. We need those spaces for specific reasons. All right, for me, I don't personally need that extra space, but there are people who do. And if you put your shopping cart there, they can't get their stuff in and out. Be a little bit more aware. Here's another thing. I have learned that when you go to a building that has an elevator, okay, there are people who will hold the elevator for you. I mean, it takes a time for me to maneuver that scooter in there. Wheelchair people have issues too. I've seen people, you're waiting for a while, and there's a number of people in the elevator. So, of course, it's been some time, and the last guy will get out and not hold the door for you. So now what happens? The elevator goes to somebody else. Hold the door for people with mobility issues, okay? That is just common courtesy and helpful. Some people do. Granted, a lot of people do. But some people don't care. I've noticed it, and they just keep walking. I don't know if they don't notice it or they just don't care. But come on, common courtesy. You hold the door for them. Same thing if you're going through a door. Hold the door for the person with the mobility issue. Believe me, we appreciate that stuff. It really makes a big difference. So anyways, be aware, people with these things, handicap spots, elevators, anything like that, is just courteous. Have a good day.